Hey, this is Alex Gonzalez from In Your Phase. This is going to be our very first episode of our podcast, and despite talking about a little bit of 40K hobby progress, this is going to be an Age of Sigmar episode. In this episode, we're going to be reviewing both a grand tournament that happened in Quebec, as well as an event that was just almost a grand tournament or a GT in New Zealand. So sit back and enjoy. Hello and welcome again to In Your Phase, or rather, welcome to your very first episode of In Your Phase. This is going to be your hosts, Alex, John, Garrett, and Jeremy. Again, this is the penultimate episode, the very first episode of In Your Phase. Today we are going to be talking about quite a bit of things, but before we get started, we want to start these type of episodes in a way that we might have started in previous media, previous content you guys might be familiar with. And in order for us to do so, we want to check in on everyone. We want to see how they're doing. Especially in this day and age, you want to make sure everyone's doing well. And you want to make sure that, their chakras are good, that the moon is aligned in the right way, or rather maybe the moon is in the right phase. So, John, what's in your phase?
Hey, Alex. Well, I tell you what's been in my phase all week long. First off has been this fine Kayo whiskey that I've been enjoying. That is delicious. Real smooth. I know, Jeremy, you're a fan of the Japanese whiskeys. It's been said that the Japanese are newcomers to the art of whiskey. With typical Japanese perfection, they looked at what the rest of the world was doing and said, yeah, we can do it a little bit better. And so far they have. Beyond that, last week I released a little unboxing video with the new Indomitus set for 40K. And so all week long, I have been building myself some new Necrons here. You can see some fine Necrons. These are, absolutely beautiful models in this Indomitus set. First off, the sculpts that GW has nowadays, of course, on par. The depths of the sculptures, as I talked about in the unboxing video, amazing. But what really catches me, guys, is I myself am a person who likes to clean up his model. And I clean up the mold lines. I clean up the little bits of sprue. I'm not really talking to you, Garrett. I know you don't know much about this.
Neither does Jeremy. You're literally just talking to me.
I see you shaking your head there. Myself, I am not quite Israel Sanchez level where I have to have them perfection and I fill all the gaps with putty, but I do a pretty good job. I like my models to be clean. And that's one of the things that makes these new Indominus, especially these Necrons, is where GW put the mold lines. I mean, I'm telling you, there's models that I maybe scraped 3 or 4 lines on the entire model, went in with my X-Acto knife, popped off a couple of the sprue eyes, and the model is ready for assembly. Really clean, easy to assemble. I did look at the directions, I will admit. But other than that, I've been having fun all week building up some Necrons. What did you say to me earlier, Alex, when I was talking about it? You said the seal has been cracked, as it were. So my seal has been cracked. I am now a Necron player and builder and collector, and we'll see where it leads me. Oddly enough, I happen to be reading the Arnold Schwarzenegger autobiography, Total Recall, right now, and he's just finished talking about the making of the movie Terminator and what he did to prepare for that, and pretty amazing stuff. So I'm not getting into that now, but maybe there'll be a movie review later or a book review later in the week. We'll see how that goes. Anyways, Garrett, what is been in your phase this week?
I've had a pretty good week. So I have been getting into 40K. Before I get into all of that, I did want to say I ran another one of my COVID tabletop simulator events. This was a smaller one, only 8 people joined in, but everyone had a great time. I want to give another great shout out to Caleb Walters. He has won another one of my events. I think I want to need to go back through every event that Caleb's been through, but I think he has yet to lose a game. He's beaten Bill. Yeah, he won the 1 5-round event I ran, which was I think my third tabletop simulator event I ran. He won that. He beat Bill Souza for round 5. And then my 4th one, I don't know if you played him, but I know I think went 3-0 in my last one, and he went 3-0 again. I truly believe that Caleb is straight up undefeated in every event that I've run so far. So actually on and offline.
Right.
Yeah, if you count me as running Nova Open, he is not undefeated, but otherwise I believe he is undefeated in events that I have run. Just want to give a shout.
Bribery.
Right? Yeah. No, Caleb is a fantastic player from out here in the Northern Virginia, the DMV area. I believe he lives out near Baltimore. And he's a fantastic player. He regularly attends Adepticon and performs well with his brother Scooter, the Walters brothers. They're a fantastic group of guys, really fun. He got first place at Du Bois last year, and just a really upstanding individual, really good player, and it shows every time he goes to an event. The one time I played him, I beat him. So that's the one achievement I have. I have beat Caleb the one time I played him. I played Caleb's list against Lincoln or something like that, and I still beat him, or I lost, I forget. But I have beat Caleb once. But anyways, for what's going on in my life, I've been getting into 40K 9th edition a lot. I've been working with Jeremy a ton, talking Sisters of Battle a lot. Both him and I are diving into Sisters. I've been kind of dual because I have both a large Sisters and Orc collection, and so I don't really want to get married to one faction because I want to be able to be a bit more versatile as I approach 40K rather than just like go into one faction, realize I don't like it, or realize it's not as good, or the meta shifts or whatever. I want to be able to pivot more based off how the game pivots, because as I've been seeing, 9th edition seems to be a very fluid game. Not so much like things are standing out right now, but they may pivot real fast. So I actually just recently busted out my old Sisters of Battle. And I painted a long time ago for the first LVO ever, actually, is when I painted these girls. And so
I don't want to talk about them. I don't want to see them.
What?
You remember when you bribed your way into a win?
Oh yeah, these are the same sisters that bribed my way into beating your ass.
We talked about it in a different media platform, but we're going to talk about it right now. Basically, our good friend and teammate Liz Foster, she was going to ETC, which eventually, she met her wonderful husband Dom at, and she needed to get to Croatia, so she ran a tournament where all proceeds of the tournament, non-ITC, because it was definitely 100% driven towards donations and getting her some cash. So she didn't make it an ITC event, but it was a 3-round tournament, and it was 40K, and the stipulation was your buy-in went to, everything goes to her, right? And that included your buy-in, any sort of snacks you bought in the moment, because she had baked a bunch of stuff and just like, buy my baked goods. And one of the things that she did was you can get a re-roll per dollar that you donate. So
you get to re-roll the whole roll, though. So if I got hit by 20 saves, I get to pay $1 and re-roll all 20 saves.
What he said.
Yeah. So I basically threw $42 down to just constantly re-roll, because basically what happened was the old relic mission, and my Sister of Battle unit took the relic, and then Alex charged in with Necron warriors and attacked me, but he put them in a way that he couldn't then charge and get a successful charge in with his Lich Guard unit. And so I just sat there and re-rolled saves the whole time, because this was 6 or 7.
Necron Warriors couldn't break his saves because it was 7th edition, so my Lich Star could not get the final Sister Battle. That was, I think there eventually there was 1, but there was 3, and then it became 2, and then it became 1, and I could not move the final Sister by the end of round 5, in which it ended, because you kept on re-rolling all saves, and I only had like a certain number of Necron Warriors that could even hit him, and then of course I'm like, the Sisters surrounded Garrett at any time. You can charge into my Necron Warriors and save her.
Nope,
and he's like,
never.
No, I'm okay.
No,
I'm okay.
good.
And I'm like,
only Alex would be salty about charity.
Yep.
No,
So
but here's the thing. Here's
Yeah.
the thing. Garrett ran out of rerolls in the game. So immediately he goes like, "Judge!" And the judge comes by. I think it was like Mark or Liz or something. He's like, "Can I buy more rerolls in the round and use it in the same round?" And I think someone just said, like, "Yeah." And then you went and bought like what, 24 or 36 more.
like I just kept like throwing down bills, just like, give me a reroll, give me a reroll, give me a reroll, give
I
me
was
a
like,
reroll.
"Cool, dude." Like,
Yes. I'm busting out those sisters again, and I got these handy. My friend tipped me off to these nice little base adjustment guides because sisters unfortunately moved to 32 mil bases, and I still have all my old sisters on 25s. And since they're 25 slotted bases as metal models, I don't really want to take them off their models, cut out the metal bits, glue them to 32s. So I got these nice little, you basically glue them around the base like this and the 25 mil, and it creates a 32 mil.
I thought they were on 28.
So I got 100 of those. So I'm looking forward to converting all of my sisters to 32s. And I've been thinking about actually stripping all of my orcs and repainting them, because I built my orcs back in 7th edition, and I kind of painted them in the various schemes that their clans would be in. So I had all my bikes as speed freaks. All of my mega knobs were in bad moons because they were the rich ones. And then my boys were painted in goths because that's where the troops would come from. Because I built around a WA, but with new 8th edition and 9th edition painting schemes where it's like, you need to have everything painted within the right color so they all match each other, so you kind of know which attachment they belong to. I probably need to repaint all my orcs so they match a consistent color scheme. So I've been busting out all my old 40K models after 2 years of not playing, trying to figure out how I want to handle them, seeing what I have, doing a lot of list building. And I've played in a couple of tabletop simulator games, and one of them was with Jeremy. And that was a fun game. Jeremy, why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, it was good educational. Like the way I would put it is, we talked about lists for like a couple of days for sisters, and I brought this to the table, and first thing I realized, like, man, oh man, doesn't feel like there's enough models in this. And it's just it's the way like of any kind of kind of list building. You like, this looks great in like paper, and then you show up to the table and you're like, holy god, there's not enough models. Like, and that's kind of like I mean, I own most of the army. What I should have done is I should have just like put it on the table physically and be like, yeah, there needs to be more like bodies on the floor and the ground. I think the way I would describe the game was incredibly high educational value for what sisters can and cannot do. One of this is hitting things with multi-meltas was definitely a lesson I found out very thoroughly. Key takeaways: Easy Bake Oven is back, and it's amazing. I bloody love it. And Zephyrims and Bloody Rose are amazing. So that was a cool, like, there's nothing like power swords that are AP -4 in combat, so just chew through things like nobody's business. No, I really enjoyed the new Destiny dice mechanic. I mean, it's just basically the fake dice from AoS, but like for 40K. They're incredibly good. I think sisters will probably be in contention for, like, I wouldn't say top army for 40K, but I definitely see it like very consistently like 4-in-1 armies. We'll see what the multi-melta like change rumor is going to be like if it affects like sisters.
Oh god, if those immolators get 2 shots and +2 damage.
Yeah, that's weird.
Oh god, 4-shot immolator multi-meltas.
Nice.
No,
Be
no
excited,
bueno.
right? I mean, you already pay the change from 9th to 8th meant that the multi-meltas went up in points in comparison to 8th versus a heavy bolter, for example. So I don't know. I feel like they probably already calculated the points. They just haven't published it until they do the Space Marine reveal. Like, psych, this is multi-melta life now.
Well, you know why they have 2 shots, right? Because they have 2 barrels.
That's what I always thought. But then
it's like the simplest version.
It's range.
doesn't even make sense.
I gotta say, not to get too on board with 40K here, but you guys did see the results or the Japanese rules, the Japanese kits with the instructions for the Terminators and the new Terminator changes, right?
No, actually.
Oh, you haven't seen the German ones. The German ones are
Space
cool.
Marine Terminators get an additional wound.
Yep.
They are now 3 wounds a pop. They
Right.
all gain an extra attack.
Wow.
And then my biggest takeaway was actually something that I saw initially from the Necron Triox Stalker Japanese kit's instructions, and now I just assume that everything in 8th is eventually going to have it, which is a flamer type weapons being 12 inches rather than 8, because the Triox Stalker's heat ray can either be dispersed and be a flamer, a heavy flamer, and or a multi-melta, and now the multi-melta is like 4 shot, and then the other gun is the flamer is D6 shots, 12 inches. And then I saw that the heavy flamer for Terminators is now 12 inches as well. And I'm like,
I guarantee you.
The Triarch Stalker getting 12 inches makes sense to me because it's a Triarch Stalker. It's a big-ass vehicle. Like, the whole thing about immolators is they had 12-inch range heavy flamers. Like, that was the whole point of immolation flamers, is they were 12. They've always been 12-inch range flamers.
No, they'll
well,
be
maybe,
14.
Huh?
Yeah.
Now they'll be 14.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, because you have to think what it really does is the problem with most flamers is they have an 8-inch range, and most things deep strike in at 9 inches. And you're going to tell me I have a wall of flamers, and you're going to charge me, and I'm not going to flame your ass? No.
Yes.
So flamers need to have a 12-inch range because they should be the ultimate don't charge me weapon.
What about 10-inch range?
No, 12 inches. If you can charge from 12 inches, I want to guarantee, and they should ignore terrain too. It's like, no matter what, if I have a flamer and you charge me, I get to barbecue you.
Yeah, I think they take into account the ignores cover by just being like they're AP1.
Well, they auto hit. That's the ignores cover part. Is they auto hit.
Oh yeah.
I seriously doubt that we'll get like 12 inches on all flamers. They just released a bunch of AdMech models with a ton of flamers, and none of those are 12-inch range.
Those are also 8th edition rules.
No, those were written for 9th edition, Alex.
Okay, they were written for 9th, but their rules are 8th edition.
I get
Their data slates are 8th edition.
Ain't gonna be 12 inches.
I'm just amused that they actually fixed non-Primaris models. So non-Primaris Terminators got the extra boon that they should have had, so they're like Meganobs now. They got an extra attack, so they're like Meganobs now. And they got better flamers. Yeah, so it's like actually, it's like wow, normal non-Primaris Marines are actually worth like better. Like they're not just trying to straight up phase out old Marines. That's strange to me.
I mean, kind of, not really, right? Because like they just haven't introduced a Terminator version of a Primaris Marine yet.
Well, isn't that what the aggressors and eradicators?
No, Gravis armor is something unique.
Centurions than they are to Terminators. Like,
But they're not Centurions either, because Centurions are old Marines that walk into.
But aggressors they're like the version that kind of like fits that battlefield type role. Because like the aggressors are closer to.
Oh, you mean there's no melee oriented? Well, no, aggressors are like Terminators. They have a lot of guns and then a power
fist. Yeah, they just don't have the armor.
That's Centurions. Like there is, you don't see them very often, but there is a Centurion unit that is identical to that. It's literally it's a bunch of chain fists with like flamers, which is what an aggressor is. And then the new shooty aggressors are the ones with the meltas are just
eradicators.
Yeah. So there's just no Primaris. Sorry, I know we're kind of like going in a tangent here, but the point of the matter is we're definitely going to talk about 40K, even though there's an AoS background to my screen. What's on my workbench or in my phase, I guess?
Woo! What is that? I don't know about anything about workbenches, man.
What's in my phase is I am going to finish painting my Lumineth this week, probably or if not early next week. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the model line coming out in September. And then Gargants, the new, Sons of Behemoth coming out, which would be great. I definitely do think, I want to touch on this a little bit for the audience who doesn't know, especially people who don't play AoS. There's a lot of angry AoS players right now on Twitter basically trying to get at GW for basically completely dropping AoS of any kind of priority or focus because of COVID in 9th edition. They're like, I don't know if you've seen like the petitions and like I think it's hilarious. They're just basically like, hey, fix our app, update our app.
Okay.
When we get
I've seen the exact opposite. I've seen memes where they have like, like the crybaby person, and it's like a 40K player like, oh, like I'm in 8th edition or I'm in 9th edition and I still have 8th ed rules. Like, where's my release? And then it has like, the chatty looking guys where it's like someone says something, he's like, I know. And it was like AoS players. And it was like Sons of Bahamut has still not been announced. It's like, I know. Okay,
Sons of Bahamut was announced in what? March, and they didn't get their rules yet. Like COVID happened. Like, okay, I'm sorry, it's $1 a month for Azure. So Azure stopped being updated 2 months ago. So
so he's one of the guys who's upset.
I mean,
no, you spent a total of $2 to not have your rules updated.
I don't even think
because they're focusing on 40K.
It's not even the paid subscription. Like, it's not even the paid subscription to Azure. It's just the fact like Lumineth stuff still isn't in Azure.
Lumineth isn't out yet.
It is.
Sort of. It's not technically out yet.
I'm sorry, but like
technically out.
I bet there's a battle tome.
I bet.
Yeah, I can
there's
show
a
you right
limited
now.
edition battle tome that got released in a box set. This is similar to the Sisters of Battle release, where I couldn't buy the Sisters of Battle box set until 6 months after the Sisters of Battle. I couldn't buy the Sisters of Battle Codex until 6 months after the Sisters of Battle box set came out.
Is it any different though? Is it any different than what came in the box set?
No, it's not. But my point is that
my point is made.
The general release of Lumineth hasn't come out yet because they only did the limited edition pre-release, which is what they did for Sisters. It was that pre-release box that sold out that you got one, John. Like, yep. The general release of the army hasn't come out yet. You can't buy the book yet.
Next month, there's the White Dwarf coming out with the new Jaws of Gorka, like the new Goblin faction. If that shit comes up in Azure before Lumineth, I'm gonna slap you across the screen. You're wrong.
He's gonna buy a ticket. He's gonna fly across the country just to
in
slap
COVID
you.
safety, and I'll wear some gloves and wear a face mask, but I will.
Although I don't think the White Dwarf stuff will ever make it into Azure because I don't think the Celeste stuff ever made it into Azure.
They didn't, and look what happened to them now.
None of the White Dwarf stuff ever makes it into Azure.
I wish they would stop advertising that stuff as match play because every book they're like, it's
match
gone
play for the next 9 months.
Yeah, no, like all the White Dwarf stuff shouldn't be. GW has this problem of making a lot of things match play that shouldn't be, like Anvils of Apotheosis. They gave them match play rules for no fucking reason.
Yeah, but match play doesn't mean competitive play. Match play rules are not exclusive for competitive play.
No, see, that pitch battle profile
acceptable for match play that's not competitive play. And I think White Dwarf is one of those. I'm going to have a match play game with some of my buddy at his house. Let's play some White Dwarf rules. I'm running a tournament, and the rules aren't in Azure, and I can't download them from the GW website. Get the fuck out of here. Not running.
That's how everyone has played Celeste Coast. Celeste Coast was only available in that White Dwarf. Those Nighthawk rules only available in the White Dwarf.
I simply didn't have the chance to not allow it.
I was gonna say, for the sake of sanity for a lot of players, do you remember that period of time, John, where every TO had to explain if they're using realm rules, realm spells, realm relics, mercenaries? They had to come up with a checkbox list of what in match play am I using for this?
Remember the Firestone
cities? Bring that back.
I remember all that. I remember people rolling for that shit.
Yeah. It's let's not bring that back, please. Anyway, painting some Lumineth. I'm gonna paint some Sisters probably right after. And I'll give it to my fabulous and bodacious co-host Alex Gonzalez. And what it is in your bloody phase.
What's in my bloody phase? I was actually having a discussion with Jamie, my fiance, about that. I noticed, I'm almost certain that Americans are the only people with the Eurocentric type of culture that doesn't use the word bloody. Because I have heard, yesterday I was watching a show and there was someone from Romania, and they said bloody in the way the Eurocentric slang. So I'm like, are Americans like the only Eurocentric country or culture that doesn't use that word?
Yes, like obviously, America, fuck yeah.
It has to do with the fact that TV shows from England don't really make it as much as often in America as they do.
Ooh, I didn't think of that. Oh,
And that's
okay.
really the only reason why.
That makes a lot more sense. Yeah. So I'm sure that, you know, people in the Eastern Bloc might see a lot more British TV, or at least more than we would.
Americans remake all the good British TV shows. Americans just remake them, like The Office. He's like, fuck it, we'll just make our own Office. It'll be better.
Yeah, like House of Cards.
Yeah, shit. Wow, that's a good fucking point. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Also,
what is it? Yeah.
Sorry, I was gonna say they're also taught by English people, not Americans. They're not. When I learned English the first year when I was in France, it was an English person, not an American. So it's gonna be the same situation. You're gonna learn the English way in Europe of speaking English, not the American way.
Yeah, Americans speak. They teach English in like Japan and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's where Americans teach English abroad.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, I going on that topic just one more time here. Speaking of you know, anything England related or anything across the pond, I was randomly listening to a lot of background noise that was just like a bunch of stand-up today, and eventually it got to some Scottish stand-up comedian, and I had to I only noticed instead of just having it be background noise, because I was like, wait, they're speaking English, but I don't understand it. What's going on here? Like, hold on. What is in my phase? I got to tell you guys, I have a very, very full workbench. So my phase is all over the place here. You know, I got my final Croxagore from our good friend Carl Payne, who, if anyone's seen some of Jeremy's more recent media, his Imperial Fists have been painted by Carl Payne. Carl Payne also got first in the ITC for painting award in 40K. So he's a fantastic, phenomenal painter. However, Jeremy didn't pay him to clean the mold lines. He just paid him to paint the models.
That's
so
right.
That is a travesty.
Mold lines that be in the instruction set.
I share the same sentiment with John, primarily because I learned painting and I learned initial advanced hobby techniques from our good friend Israel Sanchez. So I can't finish a model without properly cleaning it. I can't paint it until it's properly cleaned. Now I paint in sub-assemblies. It's a whole thing. And so, you know, I got my final Croxagore, 3D printed Croxagore. Actually, no, that's not it. It is this one. And in the mail, it's Moon Hammer fell off. So I'm going to have to fix it. It is based off the Total War sculpts. So it is wonderful and perfect, and I love everything about them because they are. I have 6 of them in 3 different poses, and they are great. I'm not going to be using Croxagores in every list, but I fucking love running charge Croxagores, so I'm certainly going to be using them. The other thing is also Seraphon related. Everything is going to be Seraphon related in terms of my hobby bench, because I want to get everything at least built by this upcoming Sunday when Jeremy, maybe you and I can get a game. I've gotten a lot of cold ones. In a very short amount of time, I've gotten a lot of Seraphon, primarily through eBay sniping, through Facebook Marketplace, through trades. Gotten pretty lucky with that. But one of the things was, you know, you see this, you know, cold one, and my camera is not going to autofocus it. So you guys see, you know, I'm going to make sure that I can do that though. So one sec. You can see this not beautiful guy. You know, he's not looking all that great, right? Yeah, we don't like him very much. Now, here's the thing. He looks a little clunky, he looks a little goofy, and he's just living his best life. But, like, you know, he just has a nice personality. He doesn't have to be all that good looking. Whereas, I really like the Drakespawn Knights. These ones, oh God, come on, man. Webcam, are you gonna autofocus? You're not in the center. Oh no. Okay. Anyways, so Drakespawn Knights.
Hand it over to me. I'll put it on my hobby cam real quick.
Oh, there you go. How fucking cool would that have been? If he had one, oh, wouldn't that be wonderful? I need to get a hobby cam then. So the Drakespawn Knights are great, and I have seen conversions where people just kind of like plop them on and put green stuff in because the riders on the cold ones, they have basically like a blanket over the cold ones, the actual Seraphon cold one models, basically put a blanket over them, and then they put their saddle on top. And the saddle is actually pretty tight. Like it's almost like a bird perch. So when you look at the cold one models, despite how old they are, like the riders are like their legs are up on one side and you see their entire talent, like their taloned foot, like curled around the thing like a bird's feet. I think it's very cool. But in order to make Drakespawn Knights, the proper cold ones actually fit with the riders, you have to do a little bit of green stuff work. But if you just do the green stuff work, it doesn't look all that great for basically the last 24 hours, I have been like racking my mind, and I finally figured out how I'm going to make it work properly, because even people online who have done the conversion, you can just see it. It's like, wait, so why is this saddle a booster seat? This doesn't make any sense. So eventually I realized, okay, well, I'm going to take Milliput, I'm going to connect them to the rider, to the mount, and what I'm going to do afterwards is, or what I finally realized I should be doing, is I roll out the Milliput and put it very gently and carefully around the entirety of the rider. And in the meantime, I cut all of the saddle off of the rider completely. So it's just the rider himself and his feet and like the little feet pegs. And then I cut off most of the saddle of the Drakespawn Knight, which is meant to fit like a high elf, or dark elf rather. And I put them on with Milliput just to connect them on there. And then I put rolled Milliput across the entire end and flatten it out kind of. So it's almost like a folded blanket. And I'm going to paint it as such that they're sitting on top of. And it's just going to be the best way I can do that. And I've also had to cut off all the like piercings that they put all over this. The entire kind of like harness is not like one like you would put over a horse. They're like piercing the skin of the cold ones with like hooks and stuff. And so had to remove all of those, had to remove like buckles that make no sense on Seraphon and replace them with like little glyphs. And there's quite a bit of green stuff work to be done, or gray stuff work in my instance. So it is a bigger hobby project than I would have expected. One other thing that I do want to brag about is I did not like the face of the Carnosaur. Carnosaurs in Total War look great. Every single sculpt in Total War for Lizardmen looks phenomenal, or at least in my opinion. And the Seraphon kit, when I bought the Start Collecting one, the Saurus Heavy one, didn't think all that much about it. I just assumed that the kit would look relatively like the Total War variety, the Carnosaur at least. It doesn't. It doesn't at all. And so I was not a big fan of the head at all. So what we did is I was able to do a lot of research. And when I say a lot of research, I mean, I spent a little too much time trying to figure out what was going to work and what wasn't going to work in terms of possible head alternatives or what I could do. I was even thinking about, taking the Troglodon head, which is part of the dual kit for the Carnosaur, and trying my best to make something new. And that would not have been ideal either. That would have been, frankly, annoying as hell. So eventually I was able to finagle and obtain a head of a Star Drake, specifically to, a Star Drake head specifically because they have an open and closed head. They come with two different heads. So everyone who owns a Star Drake, which is a very expensive model, they're bound to have at least one extra spare head lying around somewhere. And turns out, okay, let's take a look. The head fits pretty well with a Carnosaur body. So we're going to be fixing it up, and we're going to put improve on the crest. And yeah, we are going to have a more jaw-centric Carnosaur, specifically because Carnosaurs actually get a special rule. If they attack, they get an extra attack for their jaw attacks if they're attacking something that has 7 wounds or less. And so that plus Coalesced, which automatically gives them an additional jaw attack. Pretty fun stuff when it starts at damage 5. So I wanted it to be more than just this little snubby thing. And, we've had a friend, Matt Barker, essentially correct me saying, Alex, the size of a jaw doesn't mean the power of the bite is going to be better or worse. And I'm like, that's not what I'm talking about. Like, it's just, I want something to look cool, so that's what's going on here.
You know what? I just want to recognize Jeremy. Good job. That is excellent work, Jeremy. I applaud you completely, Jeremy, for all of your work. And the result of all your work is Alex building something that doesn't look like a fucking skeleton. In the form of a dinosaur.
For the record, I have loved dinosaurs.
For the record.
I look right behind. I look behind me. I look behind me, and I see 4 different books on paleontology.
So that was his only chance to get you to play something besides death, undeath,
truly?
or mecha death armies, was to go right for the heart of dinosaurs. Again,
Absolutely.
I applaud your work, Jeremy. Good job.
Absolutely. Hey, look, it's not a death army. Surprise, surprise. I was actually thinking about doing skull face paint just to fuck with people, on them. But
why not? That's fine. I'm okay with that.
It's not going to fit my scheme. I want to do a Sonoran desert style reptile inspired.
I'm gonna ask for your DEF
That'd be
membership
cool.
card back now. It's over.
Hey man, they get bones. In fact, they're actually my like Kotal's claw lists are the ones that I've been looking at, and they are, I think, the most fun out of all the Seraphon constellations on here, because like their coalesced army, like their spaceship crashed, their starship crashed in Gur, and they lost their Slan, which apparently doesn't bar you from taking a Slan, but you can. With them, they basically became more bestial over time. They even have a story of like a bunch of essentially wanderers coming up to them and like wanderer refugees being like, "Oh, the Seraphon are here. They're masters of order. Come save us!" And they just like eat them. They just eat the wanderers. And I'm like, that's pretty tight. That's pretty tight.
I like that.
So
that's why we have no Wanderers Codex or Battle.
That's why they all became legends. Yes. Good point. I'm basically scrambling, to be honest, to get all of this stuff put together. I mean, like, it's all almost put together. I have an entire tray of Seraphon ready to get primed. I just want to like build all the models first before I start doing that, because I will get distracted. And it's like that. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the photo of like a Google developer, and he's got like a note on his, like, tied to his back, and it just says like, "Please don't talk to me, because if you do, I will get engaged in a 30-minute conversation with you, and I can't afford to do that." So it's kind of like that for me. It's like, I need to build all these things, because if I don't and I start painting, I'm not going to get any of this other shit done. So Necrons are my Necron project. Everything's ready to get primed up as well. And I actually have a very set color scheme. I'm a lot more secure in what I'm going to do there. But without a codex in October, I have no intention of getting any of that shit done. So right now, I'm just looking at a bunch of Seraphon right here. So, yeah, that's all that's in my phase. But, you know, there are many more phases around the world, and there are a lot of events that are going on slowly but surely as we start to kick back into things globally, sans United States, in terms of actual events. I mean, the great state of Texas, I know that they've been running events, and who knows what Florida's been doing. I don't know. But for all of us, you know, we got the Nova area, we got the Virginia area for Garrett, we have the Pacific Northwest for Jeremy and I, we have California for John, and for the most part, unfortunately, none of us can really go to events. So, you know, Garrett mentioned doing his TTS tournaments, but overall, I'm not a big fan of TTS, so I'm not really engaged in that. And so a lot of our participation in events have been a little slim, but that doesn't mean that there aren't still events going on everywhere else. Now, unfortunately, one of the events that we want to take a look at today, it was a location that was completely COVID-free for a very long time, and up until very recently, and up until today, literally. So probably shouldn't have mentioned that, because, you know, the way that YouTube's algorithm works, maybe I'll just edit that one out. But there was an event that was in New Zealand that we want to take a look at today, in addition to an event that actually happened in Canada, specifically Quebec region. Let's start off with the Quebec event. Now, for all of our listeners out there, or viewers possibly, if you guys are you know, getting in on the video action, there was a tournament that was conducted through Best Coast Pairings, Garrett, and it was the Jeremy, do you want to pronounce this one for me?
Nope.
I'm not going to pronounce this. I mean, I'll try to butcher it.
Jeremy, Grand Clash de no.
I love that
okay, you can't give us shit without.
Grand Clash de I go with my,
Come on,
my
Clash.
You're
California
better than this.
spin.
You're better
Tireur
than
de
this, guys.
dés.
Look at the words. Look at the Tyra, right? Tyra or something like that. And then you got a
Tyra
D.
de.
So did des.
De.
Yeah. Did des, did de. I mean, at least for like that's let me tell you, when it comes to weird words like this or things you don't understand, try pronouncing it in English first. Like don't go for the foreign shit. Grand Clash des Tiro de des. There we go.
Incorrect.
How's that? I know it's terrible, but I got further than they did.
Grand Clash des Tire Ux D des placings. That is I'm trying to make it as obnoxious as possible. We're gonna see if we accidentally give Jeremy an aneurysm here. We're good.
It is the Grand Clash de Tireur de dés. It is the Grand Clash of shooters of dice. It literally translated.
Wait, Tion? Wait, where's the N? You say Tion?
Tireur de dés.
There's no N.
De dés.
Tireur.
Tireur. Well, I have a bad French accent, so I thought I was close enough. My French accent was actually better than your English accent, so there, man.
Okay, well, that's how the event was then, and it was in Quebec, and they had quite a few people. That was a full-on GT. I was shocked. Yeah, there were 50 people there that went to the event, and 5 rounds. Gotta say, pretty impressive. Everyone submitted their list. Not all of them were, say, verifiable lists. A lot of yellows there in Best Coast pairings. But hey, you got to give them credit where credit's due. This was a very big event in a sea of no events. So congratulations on the TOs. But, these events, unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of information pertaining to the actual packet that I was able to procure. But we are able to find quite a bit of additional details, at least in terms of the final standings and where things were there. So, we do know that it was General's Handbook 2020. So that's helpful. But you would assume that everyone would be running what?
Yeah, do we know it's 2020?
It is General Handbook 2020, but not the facts.
Yeah, it was pre-FAQ because it came out at the same time as the FAQ. But the top 3 here, we got Lou Bergeron.
Can we just have Jeremy read this, please? So before we embarrass ourselves.
Jeremy, how about you go through the top 3 in terms of name and faction?
So the first player is Lou Bergeron. And then the second player who plays is Loïc Gosselin-Delors. And keep in mind, this is people from Quebec. They do not pronounce things the same way as But
you'll pronounce them French. A lot closer than we will.
I speak
a lot better
French.
than I would have.
And the third person is Olivier Gondouet. Gondouet. And both of them in actual faction placing were Cities of Sigmar, Hallowheart, sub-allegiance, Caradon Overlord, Barracks, Elfin, sub-allegiance, and then Zinch, Eternal Conflagration, sub-allegiance. Runner-ups were Osark Bone Reapers, Mortis Praetorian. Somebody got that. And then additionally was another Caradon Overlord, Barracks, Elfin Army. And then some destruction, like 3 destruction players after that. So anyway, let's go back to the let's give a breakdown of the first 3. Let's talk about the event and so forth.
Well, taking a look at the first one at Lou, because I'm just going to say their first names moving forward. That is, of course, a Hallowheart Cities of Sigmar list, taking full advantage of those older models. I got to say,
I want to say taking full advantage of those Stormcast Eternal point reductions.
Yes.
The 20-point reduction on the Knight Incanter and the 30-point reduction on the Lord Exorcist. 90-point 3-up save wizard there.
Now, Garrett, last time I spoke to you, or last time we talked really about hobby on your end of things prior to today, you had told us that you had finished building a bunch of Phoenix Guard. I think that was actually for our test run of this episode. He's got Phoenix Guard here. You want to tell us a little bit about the list?
Fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
So share the rest of the list for us.
All right, so he's got a Knight Incantor and a Lord Exorcist as his 2 Stormcast Eternal units, a Luminarch with Battle Mage, Celestial Hurricane with Battle Mage, and a Sorceress. And then he's got 30 Phoenix Guard, 2 units of 10 Longbeards, and 20 dark shards. He's obviously taking the Whitefire Retinue, and he's restricted to 3 endless spells, unfortunately. So he's got the Everblaze Comet, Emerald Lifeswarm, Balewind Vortex. So when it comes to cities, some obvious things going on here. Longbeards went down in points. Don't know why. They were fantastic where they were. They're now a unbelievably point-efficient defensive.
Oh shit! They're 10 points a model.
Yeah, no, like 240 points for 30 Longbeards. Like they're ridiculously good. Like they are 3-up saves in melee, or if you're taking the axe and shield, which is probably he's taking the great axes. So they're 4-up save with 2 attacks.
They can still have the shield of great axes.
No, you can't have the shield of great axes.
No, you can't.
It used to be that way in the
Yeah, no. You either can take the great axes for 2 attacks at 3s and 3s rend 1, or 1 attack at 3s and 4s, but you have the shield for the +1 to save in melee. So he's got 2, but I mean, still, like they're just a 4-up save, 2 attacks at 3s and 3s rend 1, 100 points for 10. Like they're just, and they're battle line, always. Longbeards are just a straight battle line. So for a lot of missions like Better Part of Valor and all those other missions where you have battle line gets bonus, I think there's one mission where it does that. Having extra battle line is great. 20 dark shards to help the sorceress get +2 to casting with the additional +1 to casting from the Whitefire Retinue. So she's casting at a +3. That Emerald Lifeswarm to revive 30 Phoenix Guard. So if you lose a couple, you're reviving D6 every time you cast that.
It's not bad.
Yeah, Everblaze Comet, fantastic endless spell to just pop and do a bunch of mortal wounds per turn. And then Balewind, probably for one of the Stormcast Wizards with the Sorceress, just to cast more spells. Because why would you? Probably the Sorceress, because her base spell is really good with the -1 hit and D3 mortal wounds, and then you get 2 Hollow Heart spells for being Hollow Heart. So she can cast 3 spells a turn. With the Balewind, fantastic. So it's just a spell-heavy list that has a really solid base of the Phoenix Guard and just blasts you with spells. It's just mortal wounds galore. Classic. Most Hollow Heart lists take a really big shooting base, but this one having the Phoenix Guard to help buff them up and heal them a bunch, I can see it working out really well.
Wow.
That's my analysis of that list.
And it clearly did, right?
Yeah, I got first place.
I want to nitpick at that. I want to nitpick at that list for a second.
Of course you do.
Maybe I can't tell. I think the video's completely frozen for me. At least it is on my computer. We'll see what ends up happening in a second. But anyway,
it is. Okay,
and we lost the virtual background. There we go. And I'm back. All right. Can I nitpick and also talk about the second place players list?
Yeah.
Because I think it's valuable to mention that the person who got second place, I'm assuming they probably didn't play actually what ended up happening in the score, right? Because based on the points, I think they probably, so I don't have the data in front of me, but I'm guessing the third place player probably played the first place person for that tournament. If only I had somebody here who's a data jockey.
They actually played, the second and first place players played each other in round 5.
Okay, so they did play in the finals. So my point is going to be
it was a 6-round event. They played in the semifinals.
Oh, okay. My point is going to be even juicier then, I guess. Great Barax Elfin list. It has everything you want to see in a Barax Elfin list. It is basically 1-drop army with Iron Sky Command. And it is 18 Balloon Boys, 30 Arcanon, an Ironclad, with interesting choice, Great Volley gun with the last word, meaning that he gets to shoot at something that charges it with that gun. And then the dirigible Endrin Master, which basically just means the rest of the Endrin Riggers are battle line. And additionally, I think 2 Ether Chemists, or 1 Ether Chemist and 1 Navigator. I forgot off the top of my head. I think it's just 2 Ether Chemists. Yep, 2 Ether Chemists. For one of them with a spell in a bottle. But he was playing with the pre-fact points. So technically his list today would be even like lower in terms of value. I think it's actually, in fact, almost 50 points cheaper now. Or 60
he's pre-fact points. That's right. Stormcast went down in the GHB.
Yeah.
Nope, not KO. But he, interestingly enough, he took a Warp Lightning Vortex. And I have to say, like, I'm still not convinced that's the better endless spell because like literally that Hollow Art list gets decimated by one spell in the bottle, Darkfire Rift. It literally just gets like, good night, sir. All your power is gone.
Are they the same points? The Darkfire Rift is
same points. It is not 80.
It is now.
He did not.
It's written by hand on the list.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah. This is one of those damn photo lists.
Oh,
yeah.
That's right.
So,
because that's something you allow.
Did the Vortex go down to 80 from 100?
Yes, it did.
Oh,
it went down to 80 points.
Oh, it went down points.
Yeah, the Vortex went down.
Oh, that makes Skaven players happy then.
So, I mean, I understand the trade-offs in both decisions between the two endless spells. I just like the matchups which are hard for KO are like heavy magic matchups. And I think like with the, Surgeons of Seraphon, Zinch, and like, lists like Hallowheart and soon to be Lumineth, I definitely think like just straight up spell in the bottle Demon Fire Rift just basically says, hey, cool, like I'm glad you brought magic intensive harmony. Let me just wipe out all your wizards on the first turn, or at least half of them, or the big ones that matter effectively. So that was my only nitpick about Hallowheart list. It's just like it's with the environment that has Demon Fire Rift in the meta. It's just like
Well, with the 30 Phoenix Guard, depending on deployment zones, you could actually probably protect all your wizards from an alpha.
You can't anymore against. You can't anymore with Barak. The fact when they clarified for sure that you can fly high during the hero phase, you cannot protect it again. You can't protect it.
Yeah, I guess no, you can't because you just.
It's the problem that the Demon Fire Rift aura ability is a 12-inch count versus a 6-inch count.
Yeah.
So it doesn't do mortal wounds on 6s in the 6-inch area. It just counts every wizard and endless spells within 12 inches to do extra mortal wound. So you could probably protect like 2 or 3 of your wizards with the bubble wrap, but like the ones that matter are going to get nuked off the table.
Yeah.
And the thing is doing like any unit it passes over and unit it ends within 1 inch, I believe, takes D3 plus the number of wizards and the spells counting itself. And other spells. So it's doing like D3 plus 1 by itself, and then those 5 wizards could generate another. So it's D3 plus 6 mortal wounds.
Yeah.
Assuming he's not on a Balewind and all that. So I don't know. It's for me. It's until for KO as a KO player, I would definitely not do the Warp Lightning Vortex. Like I understand like the feel safe and the more you're using it to generate mortal wounds on characters and prevent things from running and flying, but like, man, those heavy magic matchups are so rough for Caradon Overlords. Like I feel like you have to take the Demon Fire Rift to just remove these wizards off the table. But hey, great job on the Barak Selfin player for getting to the second place of the event, especially on a 6-round event. That is impressive. And now he's got like about 60 points to play with to improve his list. So let's see what
in your defense. The Barak Selfin player lost to Hollowheart when they played.
Yeah,
so
if he just had a Demon Fire Rift, he would have just crushed him.
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, I don't know what happened with his other matchups, but conclusion.
Yeah, jeez. That's a really interesting one. John, do you have any thoughts on both list 1 and list 2?
Nope. I think it's been thoroughly covered by our 2 co-hosts.
We got this third one here, and of course, this is Oliver. Again, not going to pronounce the last name. Not on you, it's on me. What?
It's Olivier. You can pronounce that.
I do.
No.
I do want to mention
his first name is Olivier.
There.
What's his last name?
That doesn't matter. I'm just saying you can at least pronounce the first one correctly.
Before you get into his list, I do want to mention he is the only undefeated player in the tournament.
Oh shit, you're right.
He got third place, but he got a tie. And since it was a battle points tournament as opposed to a wins-based tournament, he got 87 points and they're 89, but he never lost a game.
Wow. So really, I would mark him as being first simply due
to depending on your metrics. Their metrics, battle points is more important. So in their book, he got third. But in tournaments in the U.S., he would have gotten first place as the only undefeated player.
Canadian AoS instead.
Just want to point that out before you jump into his Zinch list.
Okay. Well, I mean, like, it's not. I mean, honestly, I'm very curious to see who his round 3 was then, because being able to tie with that list, is a little wild because that's
KO.
It was KO. Yeah, it was.
It was KO.
It's Marc Andre.
I mean, can we?
Yeah.
It's for context of the audience. The list is a Loader Change, Blue Scribes, a Fate Master, Changeling, 3 units of 10 Pink Horrors, 2 units of 10 Brimstones, 2 Exalted Flamers of Zinj, and the Changeless Battalion, and then his endless spell was Geminids of Olgish. I actually do not understand this list, so somebody will have to explain it to me because like you're playing Eternal Conflagration, but you have like no shooting. Like I don't get this list. Somebody.
Yeah, it is weird. I mean, you got the Flamers.
That's it.
So I will say that in round 3, I think there was a certain mission like a knife to the heart or something.
Yeah.
Because there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ties out of the 25 games played
In one round.
Yeah.
God.
Good.
So
That's
that
so-
round was probably a heavy tie round.
Nice.
Like it was
Yeah.
a mission that was so we don't have the packets, we don't know what mission was played, but I'm guessing it was one of those 2 objectives, like Duality of Death or
I am
Knife to the
shocked.
Heart or something.
That's something to consider when setting up a tournament. Then is actually picking, shall we say, nice granularity missions that are going to low opportunity for ties or provide a tiebreaker.
Well, I think they probably picked Knife to the Heart because I hear that things like Knife to the Heart are great as a round 3 mission going into day 2 as your tournament separator, because those missions are technically what people call as those separates, the men from the boys of like, because it's a big win mission. That's what I've heard. I don't
When a
like
third
it.
of your field ties, though, that's not separating
Those
anything.
missions
That's
are the ones
that's the
that-
mash in the middle mission is what that is.
Yeah,
It's create
but
mud in our scoring.
it's missions where you have those auto win conditions, or ones that it's like you usually end up having those. You want those like early on to like separate the people, because people who know what they're doing can win them, and people who don't know what they're doing will lose them, and so you get that big separation. So they're a good day 1 mission to break apart. I'm guessing that's what the thought process was here. I don't know. I personally don't like these turn 3 win conditions, Blood and Glory and Knife to the Heart and Take and Hold, those 3 missions. I don't like them personally, but that's what I've heard as a defense for them, is that they help early, like day 1, you use them to break apart the tournament by just doing a quick separation of like, okay, now the people who know what they're doing are playing each other on day 2.
True.
So I'm guessing that's what the attempt was here, but you have 7 out of 30. You have almost a quarter. You have almost a quarter of your events or your tables tied.
And one of you explain to me why take Eternal Conflagration if your army is like not spamming Flamers.
I can't speak for certain. I think the guy.
Horrors get the -1 rend as well.
Okay, and they're very lackluster shooting. I got that part.
No, horrors do not have lackluster shooting. They have
It's
3
crucial.
shots apiece.
Yeah, but they're units of 10. They don't get any of their big side.
What
You
Jeremy's
get
trying
the
to
plus
say.
one- you get the +1 to hit with their spell. So you're at 3s and 4s, 3 shots apiece. You teleport up with a change host, and that's still 30 shots that are 3s and 4s rend 1. It's not bad.
I don't.
What Jeremy means to say is you're basically playing without all the guns at your disposal, very blatantly without all the guns at your disposal, which is a personal choice.
Seems
But
to have done well with it.
Yeah,
You seem to have done well. Exactly.
I'm not belittling his achievement. I'm just curious how that list, like how you guys would picture it playing on the table.
Okay,
So
so
honestly-
here's a weird thing. So he was running 220-point pinks, but the KO player was not running 480-point ironclads.
That's right.
So half the players were using FAQ point updates, but the other half wasn't.
Maybe. That's-
Oh, wow. Whoops.
Wait.
Just because pinks got
are
updated in the
240 now,
FAQ.
right? 10 pink to 240 now.
No, they're 220. They used to be 200.
What I thought aren't they 220 in this list?
Yeah, they're
Oh,
220 in the
220.
list.
Oh,
but
it's
the
200.
ironclads are 510 instead of 480.
Right. So he basically gypped himself 60
Yeah,
points.
Exactly. He gypped himself 60 points.
Oh, wow.
Holy crap. He could have done even better.
It would have been interesting to see the packet for this event, to see what exactly they were using.
Well, before we, again, congratulations to all the winners of the event. Sorry if I couldn't pronounce all your names. Thankfully, I have a Frenchman here to help We do, before we wrap things up tonight on this penultimate episode, we do want to take a look and just give a shout out to another event that happened. It was almost a GT at 22 players. There was an event in New Zealand that showed quite a few varieties of players and player bases and player styles, and this was primarily utilized through TTT. So we'll just have Garrett cover his ears at times with some of this, but there was an event called the Call to Arms 2020 event in New Zealand, and specifically Wellington, and the top three there had some familiar faces. One of our honorable mentions from French Canada, specifically Ossiarch Bone Reapers, got second place. Third place was, and that was from Mitch Hardy with his Bone Reapers. We had Sean Bates with his Stormcast Eternals getting third. And then for number one, we ended up getting Caradon Overlords run by Sean Tubman. And lo and behold, surprise, surprise, it's actually not Beric Zolfin. It's actually Beric Monhar, right? Am I going to pronounce that right? Mornar. Wow, I got it that. Okay. You guys, taking a look at these three lists, any takeaways you might have?
Do you want me to serve the KO one? Because, that's usually what
I know that Jeremy's always going to opinion about everything. Let's go with John first. John, do you have any observations regarding this event?
Honestly, I looked at the top of this event and I saw, Caradon Overlords, Ossiarch Bone Reapers, Stormcast Eternals, which really surprised me. To see those guys placing so well. It's one of these things where people often write off Stormcast Eternals, but as we've seen, a lot of people use it as their beginner army, so it tends to rate lower than you would expect. But actually, when people master that army, they do very, very well with it. And then finally, I saw in fifth place, Bo Patterson came in with his Idenith Deepkin, right? And I don't know if you guys took a look at this Idenith list. Let me see. I'm sorry. I'm scrolling up to the other thing there. I was looking at Bo. And I just thought it was worth looking at because he named all of his leaders Elon Musk, Elizabeth Moss, Elijah Wood, and he had his Eldritch Guard with his Electric Riders and his Eliminator Guards. So, all the eels and everything you would expect in a typical Idenith list. But then he brought in 2 units of Shadow Warriors as allies. And I'm starting to see these Shadow Warriors pop up more and more, right? With an Idenith list. I mean, I'm looking at this thing, I'm like, oh my gosh. And anyway, so I thought it was an interesting choice. It was,
wait, hold on. John, what? They weren't called Shadow Warriors. What were they called, though?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me come back there. They were called... Sorry, it's hard to bring up. They were the Elusive Guardians and the Elite Guardians.
I love that.
So I thought it was pretty fun with the eel names on everything. But beyond that, he took 5th place, so he did very well with Idenith, which is definitely not a top tier army right now. So you got to play hard and do well. Yeah, everyone said they're back. But are we seeing him yet? No. But right here's a guy who took 5th place with him. Had a bunch of eels, brought in the Shadow Warriors. I'm sure he played hard, did well, and probably rolled pretty good.
Outside of the United States, I have seen Ideneth routinely perform well. They seem to be meta-busting, anti-shooting lists, is what it comes down to, because of their ability to control shooting.
And not England, because no one plays in England.
No, there's I think there's one.
That's why everyone in England thinks crawlers are good.
Yeah, I think there's one fellow in England who has done well with eels, and then there's John Rocco has been doing some good with eels on TTS.
Nice.
He only plays in international events. He doesn't play in U.S. events, even though he lives 20 minutes from me. But yeah, I've heard rumors of these good eel lists and performing well. They just hasn't reached the United States meta. So just want to point that out there. And then on Shadow Warriors, I played a game with James 2 weeks ago and I brought a Shadow Warrior list, or I brought a Living City list with some Shadow Warriors in it, is what I should say. And I can see why you would bring Shadow Warriors in an eel list. They do provide that, like, come anywhere on the board, kill heroes kind of thing that eels could really help, because as you could just snipe out a defensive hero and then slam in with some eels, you could just really crumple a unit or something.
Well, and he did bring 2 Tidecasters in this list.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
So yeah, the Shadow Warriors are.
I'm sorry, did I say Tidecaster? I'm sorry. He brought 2 Soul Scryers in this list.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Soul Scryers.
Yeah. So basically, he can, with the Shadow Warriors, he can null deploy that entire list.
Oh, yeah.
So that's always a powerful mechanic.
He did take something that you don't see very often, which is 12 Ishland Guard, which are not Morsars. They're the ones that ignore Ren but don't do mortal wounds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that isn't. I mean, honestly, if you're going to tie up a bunch of shooting units, especially now we're in a meta where like some shooting units are fairly durable, even in combat. So you're like, yeah, I ignore Ren, so go ahead. You're forced to shoot me. So I mean,
they get +1 to save on the charge too. So
and they have a lot of attacks. Like, people disregard, they don't have rend on their attacks, but they have a ton of attacks on those.
That brings up an interesting point about the Shadow Warriors. Is if he's taking the sub faction where your allied units gain the benefit of the tides, when Shadow Warriors are in cover, they get +1 to hit and wound, and so turn 1, your whole army counts as in cover. So Shadow Warriors can be like.
He's not using the Iron Arc. He's using Domain, which is the one that rerolls to wound for.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was thinking that's an interesting point, though, is that Shadow Warriors, if you take them in the thing where the allies gain ability.
You don't have to take that even with allies, because I think they have a spell that affects all friendly units with whole even 9, and they count as in cover. So, but he's not running there. You put around that as well.
But it's an interesting thing. You could use Shadow Warriors in an eel list. It's just like, well, turn 1, my Shadow Warriors are in cover. They get the +1 to hit and wounds, and now they got 10 shots at 2s and 3s, rend 1/1 damage.
Hey, real quick, congratulations on the eel player. I actually have a little thing that I want to take a look at here real quick, and that's going to
be a winner, boss.
I'm just saying, in terms of what we got going on here. I'm looking at the second place guy, and it made me chuckle because he's got the same thing that John pointed out with another player. And I hope that this is a trend that starts coming up a lot more with players creating unique names for their individual units and things like that.
I don't.
We gotta, but you don't? Oh, of course you don't.
No, it's hard to parse data when everyone names their shit.
Exactly.
Shit.
I understand,
I hate
but I'm not. I understand. I get it, but I also.
Okay, got it. Moving on.
Yeah. I'm looking at it, and it's an OBR list, and it is, of course, with the, not necessarily the death of, but let's say the entombment of Petrifex. You're going to see a lot less of that. We failed to mention during the, when we started discussing what was in our phase, that Jeremy and I played a game of KO versus my Osteoarch Bone Reapers, and I squeaked out a win real quick in that game.
You fucking crushed me. Don't fucking pretend it was like a close game.
Okay, so it may not have been as close a game as we had hoped for, but it was still a game. And hey, something happened. Seal was broken, and I played with Mortis Praetorians because Petrifex just really isn't going to work out right now.
Yep.
But this guy specifically, he brought Staliarch Lords. I'm not pronouncing that correctly just because I know how to pronounce Staliarch Lords. And Realm of Gur. And he named everything very uniquely. And, for our listeners out there who may not be familiar with non-Petrifex OBR armies, basically the standing ability for this legion is run and charge. And their command ability that you can use a Relentless Discipline point is for something that has a mount. You can, and is near wholly within 18 of a hero, they can make a unit be able to retreat and charge, which is huge. But, his list started with Twilight Sparkle, which was his Liege Cavalos, with Twisted Challenge, which is a bonus, a special ability against enemy heroes, and Nadir Bound Mount, which this guy when he rolls a charge move, he the elite Cavalos, you roll a dice for each for as many inches as his successful charge was, and on a 6 it causes a mortal wound. He gets to roll an additional D3 dice every time he makes a charge because of Nadir Bound Mount. He also had Skeletor, which was Nagash. Applejack's Avengers, which was 15 Cavalos Death Riders with blades and shields. He had Fluttershy's Force, which was 5 Death Riders, and then Rainbow Dash's Raiders, which was 5 more Death Riders, as well as the Pendulum and the Both Knights Shrieker. I personally,
well, you're missing out on the actual name of the list that ties it all together there, Alex.
Oh, My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. Yeah, Mitch, what you are a character. You're wonderful. I gotta say, at first I wasn't gonna bring up anything with this list because it's very straightforward, very mobile, hyper mobile, running all over the board, retreat and charge for, at first I thought most units, but I actually believe it might be all units because I looked at this while we were discussing the previous list. I looked over and pulled up Nagash's War Scroll real quick, and his ghosts are considered a mount, or they're treated as a mount.
Yes, that is
so
correct.
that means that he can retreat and charge because he has a mount in the form of these little ghosty boys around him.
That's cool.
I did not think about that because you see them and they're so tiny compared to him. I would never have initially been, that would have taken me by surprise. Like, oh shit, Nagash can retreat and charge now? What? Like, eh? So
I don't know what would be the advantage of that other than you have to fight something else, I guess.
I guess
I see so many
retreat over because he's got a 9-inch move or something.
He's got fly,
12
and it's a 9-inch move, and remember, he gets to run in charge, and he gets to run and retreat. So he's retreating 9 plus a potentially 15-inch move over other models and into whatever else he wants.
That's a cool gimmick for sure.
Oh,
cool. But you're the king of gimmicks.
Gimmick master,
the best ones.
Jeremy.
You're the gimmick master.
It doesn't play very well to he did very well with it. It's just it has a hard time playing the missions, right? It only has really like 22 models on the table. Sure, they can hit hard and they're durable and they're fast, but like shit, like I mean, I can base everything on like, would this work against Fire Slayers? No, not really.
No, absolutely not.
But every other army is just dead. So you don't need to win missions when you just slaughter your army.
I mean, there are definitely some armies that it would just hit a brick wall and not do anything to. I can't imagine it doing very much to
Phoenix Guard.
To Phoenix Guard, to shooting armies. I can't imagine what it would do to Seraphon or Barrett Zelfin.
It has some pretty good durability. Like the biggest threat are Skeletor, aka Nagash, and the 15-man Cavalos Death Rider, also known as Applejack Avengers. But like it can like 15. That's a lot of wounds to go through. It's like what, 45 wounds to go through.
I've played against a Petrifex back before the nerf. A list that had Nagash and 15 Death Riders.
Yeah,
it's 15 Death Riders. They don't die.
They can take a hit.
They can take a hit. That's a lot of wounds to chew through. And then Nagash is just reviving 1 a turn.
Yeah.
And it's just, and if you get a Bone Shaper in there, he's also reviving 1 a turn. It's just like, and they're immune to Battle Shocks. You're never gonna Battle Shock them off, even if you could kill enough. It's just like that's a lot of stuff. That unit can, and they're big, so they can zone out objectives too. I'm guessing. As far as controlling.
It's one of those lists, I look at it, I'm like, I love it. I just would make some major modifications to it. And
I like the list, but I would change everything about the list.
I would keep Skeletor and I would keep the Applejack Avenger, maybe drop them to 10 and then make some really interesting, like, some important modifications to it. But anyway.
Okay. Cool. Well, this seemed to be a pretty cool event. Any other final takeaways, you guys, of this event?
Yeah, we haven't even talked about the fact that the guy who won was Barack Mornar, and with basically a list, I would say like, it's not bringing like based on like the current like meta and so forth. It's not really bringing all the tools to the toolbox. Like don't get me wrong, Barack Mornar has some really good like mechanics. For example, their command trait, opportunistic privateer. If the man is on a boat, he can basically allow you to redeploy that boat for the first battle round anywhere on the table more than 9 inches away from your opponent. So downside is you cannot leave the boat, and the boat cannot make a move during the first turn. But it does give you that kind of like Barak Zelfin light version of, move up field during the hero phase mechanic, early in the game. The downside is that like if you're, put it too close and you're going second, it means that boat's basically on its own, right? Because it's not a move, so you can't bring, your Edring Riggers with it. The additional, so let's give a breakdown to this first. 2 navigators, I like it. 1 chemist, 20 Arcanauts times 2, 10 Arcanauts, then 9 Edrin Riggers, 10 Thunderers, 1 Gun Hauler, and 1 Ironclad, and Iron Sky Command. So for the most part, the list is 3 drops because the Gun Hauler and the Thunderers are not, actually, no, it's more than 3 drops. It's 5 drops because 2 of those Arcanaut companies are not part of the battalion, and neither is the Thunderers and the Gun Hauler. But like Mornar's Relic is very good. It's the Gale Force Staff, which is on one of the Navigator because it has to be one of the Navigator takes. It reduces the charge distance of a unit within 12 by half when they declare it. So, that could protect your boats from a really nasty charge, especially if you keep maintaining a good distance away. The Flare Pistol gives you the ability, I believe, to pick 1 unit once per game and give your entire army +1 to hit against it. Cool. Like, not necessarily like a super necessary like relic, I feel, but it's cool if you want to push for an alpha strike, which I feel like this list kind of is trying to do that with like the Ironclad being redeployed, upfield down the field with like 10 Thunderers, and then like you got your 9 Edrin Ringers with 3 drill launchers, basically pumping shots from the backfield, like trying to get those fishing for those mortal wounds. Since if you so doesn't know, drill launchers do 3 mortal wounds when they roll 6 to hit. It's got lots of bodies for scoring, way more than most Carrot on Overload lists, but it is also it's also not mobile. Like outside of the Thunderers and the Gun Hauler, sorry, not the Gun Hauler, the Ironclad, like the rest of the army is basically kind of like moving by fat. Now, one of the things about Mornar is I believe on the first turn they can run and shoot. And that's cool, but like I said, like his entire army feels like it's trying to beta strike / alpha strike your opponent. Like you're kind of like hoping you have enough drop to choose to go second, and then position the opponent in a position where he doesn't have to move but still be out of threat range, especially with the Gale Force Stave, and then like shoot your shit out of your opponent on the first turn. Once again, I applaud the man for doing so well with the list, but like I don't know, I just don't like non-mobile like KO. Like this list would just be like eel food. Like I don't know if they played, but like it's a very eel food like list effectively.
Yeah.
So
gunline armies are susceptible to so much.
It's not that gunliney, but it is definitely not as the most mobile Carrot and Overload list you will see like on the table, basically. And there's a lot of eggs in one basket, right? Kind of depending on your like your mobility is divided between your Ironclad, and your Elden Ringers, because the Gun Hauler is nice, but he's not going to be like necessarily the one scoring you points because it's a single model. But that's really like where you're, what you're looking at for mobility, and that's it.
Yeah, I think that's put perfectly from a master a KO player, right?
I don't know about that, but
You dabble a little bit.
I dabble. I dabble. I just think if you're gonna play a stand and shoot Carrot on Overload list, I would just go like iron attack instead, and just go for as many Arcanaut companies and frigates, and then basically, which is still like fairly mobile, but it is like at least definitely like a more like, hey, you got bodies to score, and you are kind of like if you wanted to, you could be a stand and shoot army basically.
Well, let's definitely see if this ends up becoming a bit of a trend when it comes to KO armies. Maybe it won't. Maybe they'll take a page from your book, Jeremy. Who knows? I I think this pretty much wraps things up for now. Thank you guys so much for listening to this very first, as mentioned earlier, pentultimate episode of In Your Phase. If you guys like this episode, we are going to be on Apple Podcasts. We are going to be on Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts, essentially, Spotify included. We do have a website. We have Twitter at In Your Phase. Everything that you guys can see at the bottom, we're all there. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, because words are hard. We do have a lot more content that we want to share with you guys, not just this weekly podcast. We're going to have a little bit more out there. But thank you so much for watching this episode. And, we do have a stream game, Jeremy and I, this upcoming Sunday. We're going to be posting some releases on Twitter about what that's going to be very shortly. And we are going to be showing some more videos. John has an unboxing video for the Indominus box set. And very shortly, we might be seeing some additional content from Garrett as well. So, again, thank you so much for listening or watching. And you guys have a great night.